On the issue of critical race theory, et cetera, I'll obviously have to get much smarter on whatever the theory is. But I do think it's important, actually, for those of us in uniform to be open-minded and be widely read. And the United States Military Academy is a university. And it is important that we train and we understand. And I want to understand white rage, and I'm white, and I want to understand it. So what is it that caused thousands of people to assault this building and try to overturn the Constitution of the United States of America? What caused that? I want to find that out. I want to maintain an open mind here, and I do want to analyze it. It's important that we understand that because our soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Guardians, they come from the American people. So it is important that the leaders, now and in the future, do understand it. I've read Mao Zedong. I've read Karl Marx. I've read Lenin. That doesn't make me a communist. So what is wrong with understanding, having some situational understanding about the country for which we are here to defend? And I personally find it offensive that we are accusing the United States military, our general officers, our commissioned, non-commissioned officers, of being, quote, woke or something else because we're studying some theories that are out there. That was started at Harvard Law School years ago, and it proposed that there were laws in the United States, antebellum laws prior to the Civil War, that led to a power differential with African Americans that were 3/4 of a human being when this country was formed. And then we had a Civil War and Emancipation Proclamation to change it. And we brought it up to the Civil Rights Act in 1964. It took another 100 years to change that. So look it, I do want to know. And I respect your service, and you and I are both Green Berets. But I want to know. And it matters to our military and the discipline and cohesion of this military. And I thank you for the opportunity to make a comment on that.
Thank you, General.
I just want to let the American people know that what's going on in our school and in our country is really a replay of the Cultural Revolution in China. And I want people to see there's similarities, and the similarities are terrifying. They use the same ideology and same methodology, even the same vocabulary, and with the same goal. The ideology is cultural Marxism, and we were divided into groups as oppressor and oppressed. And here we use race, and there they use class. And the people here who have a different review were labeled racist. But in the Cultural Revolution, the label is counter-revolutionary. So it is a hat that fits all. And once the hat is on your head, your life is ruined. And the methodology is also very similar. It's cancel culture. We basically cancel the whole Chinese civilization pre-communism. And we changed our school names, street names, store names. We changed even our personal names. My name is Xi, and I was named after the city I was born, Xi'an. Xi means west. It also refers to the imperialism. So I wanted so bad to change my name because I want to be more communist. I'm glad my parents convinced me not to. And the vocabulary is even the same, wokeness. And to be specific, we used class wokeness. In Chinese, it is 阶级觉悟. Your level of wokeness determine your chance to get promotion or to get benefit. And who decide your level of wokeness? It is the party leaders.
Yeah,
And
you speak from real experience. I mean, you were 6 years old, but you lived 20 years under this oppression. And it sounds like out of the lessons you learned under Mao and the revolution, you see this groupthink now appearing in America, and you're trying to warn Americans that you don't want to go down this road. Congressman Chaffetz, let me ask you. I mean, you see what is being taught here. What is your reaction, and do you see the similarities?
I do see the similarities, but to hear it firsthand from Xi, I'm just proud of her for speaking up. I'm proud of her for doing it the American way and actually going out of her comfort zone and making an issue of this. So on behalf of millions of people all across this country, thank you for doing that. I'm very proud of what Ron DeSantis is doing. You know, he was on our oversight committee. He was pretty good. But you know what? As governor, that guy is great. And he's doing the right thing. But it's going to take ordinary people doing extraordinary things. And so I just want to thank her for voicing what so many millions of people and parents know is happening. And we got to change it.
I'll give you the last word, Siobhan Fleet, because I think, what would your message be to America if they continue to go down this road?
I just want people to know that the freedom is fragile, and we can lose it any time if we don't defend it. And there's a lot of Chinese Americans who have the same experience and share my point of view. And I know that more and more people will step up and share their stories and tell the American people critical race theory is not anti-racism. It itself is racist. It's divisive, it's destructive, and it is dangerous.
All right. Thank you so much. I'm sorry you had to live that way. And Congressman, it's great to see you as always. Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.
Table today, and I was speaking to this young person from Arizona who's trying to fight SB 1070, and he grabbed a book and he said it's like Mao's Red Book, and I was like, man, that's what I was thinking. And it was just really cool to hear him make that connection. I was like, how about you buy like 10 to 15 of these books and you all have like a youth organizing group where you talk about it and you really try to engage this, and we can just we need to build off of this. And so
the book helped promote even further the personality cult that surrounded Mao and his own brand of communism that became collectively known as Maoism. The book would be printed by the hundreds of millions, and it got its name from the fact that it had a vivid red cover and was pocket size. The idea was for the party's faithful to carry it around with them constantly, so it was always ready at hand for them to consult and inspire. The book's slogan was, "Workers of the World Unite," and at one stage in China during what was called the Cultural Revolution, it was almost mandatory to carry around a copy. The Chinese Cultural Revolution ran from 1966 to 1976 and was pioneered by Chairman Mao. Its aim was to rid communist China once and for all of the devils of capitalism and imperialist Chinese traditions.
I think of a lot of things. The first thing I think is that we actually do have an ideological frame. Myself and Alicia in particular are trained organizers. We are trained Marxists. We are super versed on sort of ideological theories.
So basically, she just flat out said it. That's what they're out, and she mentions Alicia. That's another founder, one of the two. So that's two founders, right? That she didn't mention the other, but two of them are admitting right there, like their ideological foundation. Their ideological foundation is Marxism. The trained Marxists. That's exactly what she just admitted. She just said it. That wasn't a secret. I've long known that, but for those of you that have been on the fence with this, you heard it from the horse's mouth.
Let's just talk about it. Am I a Marxist? I'm a lot of things. I do believe in Marxism. It's a philosophy that I learned really early on in my organizing career. I don't know if it's worth us talking about communism because it just has such a bad rap.
Well, because it's failed every time. That's why it has a bad
But
rap.
so has capitalism.
Absolutely.
Because the US is so good at propaganda and being like, it has sold the idea of the American dream, and that's tied into capitalism and wealth. It's much harder to sell communism, given that so much of the experiment has failed around the world.
Patrisse Cullors, she is one of the founders of Black Lives Matter, the organization. So a total of three of them. I think there's three women that had founded it. We've talked about them before. I think this is the one that was taught. Yeah, because she has that mole on her head. Yeah, that's the one that if I'm not mistaken, I was talking about how Black Lives Matter are trained Marxists and all that. I just came to that realization just now. Hold on. We gotta hold on just a second, y'all. We have to look at this real time because this makes the story even more funny if that's her. Hold on, let me go see if I can find my video on that because I'm pretty sure that's her. Hold on just a second. We're gonna find this out together. I think just that picture that the Post is using she doesn't have that her glasses on. Let me see. Hold on. Let's go look at this real time real quick. Yes, it's her. It's her. Oh my God, man. It's her. It is. It's the same women. It's the same women, man. Oh, this makes this story that much sweeter. It makes it that much sweeter. We ain't even got to the story yet, man, but it just makes that story that much more something else. I just came to this realization live as we are talking about this. Oh, my goodness. So, for those of you that don't know, Black Lives Matter founders and trained Marxists. Lord have mercy, Jesus. And trained Marxists recently bought $1 million house in, I think it was L.A. Apparently, though, that wasn't the only one she got. As discovered, and you can see this in the caption, that she's gone on a real estate buying binge in the recent years, snagging four high-end homes for a total of 3.2 million smacks, bro. According to property records, as protests broke out across the country, the group's co-founder went on a real estate buying binge, snagging 4 high-end homes for $3.2 million. Patrisse Cullors, 37, also an odd property in the Bahamas. Dang, she wasn't even finished, bro. She wasn't even finished. At an ultra exclusive resort where Justin Timberlake and Tiger Woods both have homes. Jesus Christ, the Post has learned luxury apartments and townhouses at the beachfront Albany Resort outside of Nassau priced at $5 million to $20 million. But the self-described Marxist last month purchased a $1.4 million home. It is a short drive from Malibu in Los Angeles, according to a report. 2,370 square foot property. And that's all y'all, that's what $1.4 million gets you in LA. So yeah, you paying for the neighborhood. And by the way, that neighborhood has I think it's 99% white or something like that, crazy like that. Why in the hell would anybody voluntarily spend $1.4 million for a 2,300 square foot property? Just for context here, my house that I'm in right now is bigger than that, and ain't nothing close to that. $1.4 million. What the hell are y'all doing out there living in California? Jesus Christ. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. The Topanga Canyon homestead, which includes 2 houses on a quarter acre, is just one of 3 homes. Cullors home she owns in Los Angeles area. So she owns multiple homes in LA. Some fellow activists are taken back by the real estate revelations, I bet. Here this person says, if you go around calling yourself a socialist, you have to ask how much of her personal money is going to charitable causes, he said. And this is coming from Hawk Newsom, who is the head of Black Lives Matter Greater New York. And he says he wants an independent investigation now. Says it's sad because it makes people doubt the validity of the movement and overtook the fact that it's the people that carry this movement. Well, I mean, we've long been second guessing your dog shit movement for a minute, which a lot of people despise Black Lives Matter movement for different reasons than I do. That movement has just become it's a movement. The organization is dog shit. It's been dog shit. It's an organization that's centered around, that has absolutely tries to mesh like the concept of blackness with like sexuality, feminism, and all of that sort of dumb shit, as if they're both the same. But definitely from a nationwide standpoint, when you consider the movement and not the organization, it's a movement that has basically grown into a bunch of loser people begging or having black people beg to be accepted by whites, and I'm just simply not interested in that. But yes, the proclaimed Marxist last year, Cullors and spouse Janaya Khan ventured to Georgia to acquire a fourth home. Jesus, a custom ranch. And this is the spouse and she's Black Lives Matter Canada co-founder. Yeah, by the way, like 2 or 3, I don't know if all of them are lesbians, but I know at least 2 of them, if I'm not mistaken, are lesbians. That has nothing to do with much. I'm just throwing it out there. But that's why actually, no, it has a lot to do with it, because if you didn't understand that, you can see why a lot of them conflate the issue of, like, whether it be this patriarchal sexuality bull crap with the blackness in combination with that. So they getting a fourth custom ranch, 3.2. I mean, shit. That's the living right there. But I'm just saying, you supposed to be trained Marxists. Y'all out here trying to live like us, the capitalists. At least we don't. I mean, we don't go around. I mean, I tell you guys, those are my aspirations. But they're looking for a 3.2 custom ranch featuring a private airplane. Come on, y'all. Come on, come on, y'all. The studio apartment above the airplane hangar, and use of 2,500 foot paved grass community runway that can accommodate small airplanes. So they want people, so people can, I guess, fly in from out of town onto the estate. Bro, this is hilarious. So Cullors began her buying spree in L.A. in 2016, they say, a few years after the civil rights movement. She started from a hashtag Black Lives Matter with fellow activist Alicia Garza and Opal Tometi. Peach Retreat. So there's another one right here, Peach Retreat, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, about 30 minutes from Atlanta, blah, blah, blah. We got the Peach State Retreat was purchased in January 2020, $415,000, 2 years after the publication of Cullors' best-selling memoir. See, this is the thing, though, right? And of course, a lot of people are going to question this because she's a Marxist, or trained Marxist, or this is the movement. And I saw a post, for example, on Twitter that was like, because, you know, of course, there were going to be sad sacks that were going to try to make excuses for it. It was going to be a bunch of sad sacks that did that. A bunch of sad sacks that made excuses for what it was that she's doing, or they are doing rather, and in doing so, it was like people would say, well, she's an activist, or she does something meaningful. She should at least not be poor, right? Because that's the conflation, right? They're going to try to conflate this moronic idea as if this person is doing this, or this person is rich. And because there's no in between, right? You have to be rich, and you can't be like middle or anything like that. And I saw a post that was going around of I guess it was another Black Lives Matter protester, if you will, activist, and they were saying that, well, it's crazy that we have to make excuses for this, as if being a multimillionaire, as if being not poor and being an activist means you have to be a multimillionaire. See, these guys are what we call champagne socialists, right? And this is generally how Marxism works out anyway. This whole classlessness bull crap is not even a thing, right? And they live the luxury, definitely once they taste it, definitely if they've never had it. They get a hold of this sort of like this pool of money.
What's up, everyone? My name is Gothix, and for today's guest, we have Lily Tang Williams, a Chinese immigrant born and raised during Mao's Cultural Revolution, which she describes as a top-to-bottom orchestrated social justice movement where an estimated 20 million Chinese died due to Mao's toxic ideas and murderous policies. Lily, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm really excited to have this conversation with you. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here to and connect with you and viewers.
Absolutely. For those that don't know, what's your story? So you said you grew up in communist China. What was that like?
I was born in the southwest of China, a province called Sichuan. Chengdu actually is the capital city. So I was born and grew up there. And 2 years later, the supreme leader Mao Zedong then launched a 10 years cultural revolution. Of course, I did not know anything about it. I was like 2 years old and to 12 years old. And as I said in my opinion piece, that cultural revolution, it was just absolutely horrible. We did not know the truth, and we just thought, hey, Chairman Mao was like a god. He became a god, like a political leader, after he used that political campaign, cultural revolution, to purge his political enemies inside the party and outside the party. Then he used his typical, of course, divide and conquer tactics to put all Chinese into 10 classes people. Let's say if Marxists believe people are divided by two groups, like oppressors versus oppressed. So that's how he divided the people. So his cultural revolution is about use these young people, idealistic and naive, to trust him, believe him, brainwashed by him, to say there are bad cultural influence in our society. You need to go to eliminate them. The oppressors classes have to come out to do all these strike sessions by blaming themselves, public shaming and apologizing, self-criticism. The law enforcement broke down. Nobody could protect you. So if you were not going through the strike sessions correctly, according to Red Guards rituals, you can get beat up and sent to educational camps. It was a horrible violence and chaotic. Same time, we're starving. We were very poor, living in poverty. People who don't know about the cultural revolution should really dig into that to see what happened.
I'm just now learning about Marxism and the Cultural Revolution, and I don't know too much, but there were some things that I've picked up on in America. I can see some comparisons to things that happened during the Cultural Revolution. So you mentioned Marxism, and I want to know, what is your take on the Black Lives Matter movement? Because I was a little bit taken aback when I found out that the organizers are trained Marxists. What does that mean to you?
At the beginning, I thought the Black Lives Matter movement were just the peaceful protesters who go out and wanted to basically to deal with some issues in our society. But later, when they came out to say, oh, we are trained Marxists, now I start to really be very cynical and cautious to say, what are they trying to achieve? So I start to follow more carefully, and especially after last year's, the riots, the looting, and then they top down the statues, they burned down their buildings, and then they wanted to basically also ask for reparations for their past, their history, slavery, and just the ding, 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 ding. I feel like
red flags.
Yes, like that's like a cultural revolution, because then they start to categorize people too, oppressors versus oppressed. We were encouraged to all become spies for Mao, for the Chinese government. My neighbors say that, my family say that. It really to destroy all fabrics of our age-old civilization, Chinese culture. And they did burn down buildings, top down statues, destroy the cultural relics, burn books. You go to the public struggling sessions to make yourself ashamed and apologize. Imagine those people in their 60s today living with that guilt all their life. They could not get rid of that. How much they were brainwashed as teenagers to believe Mao, believe the Communist Party, and to go destroy their families. Oh, it's so sad. It's tragic. I would not want to see that happening on our American soil.
I'm kind of going back in my memory and thinking of things that I've seen in the past few months. And currently right now, there's this big narrative that if you are a Republican or specifically someone that voted for Trump, there's a lot of demonizing of that particular group. And I have gotten a lot of emails from people saying that, oh, my wife wants to divorce me. My friends stopped being my friends. And people are pulling back and separating themselves from whoever voted for Trump. And then I also, during the Black Lives Matter, I saw some scenes of people raising their fists in the air and saying, like, put your fist up, support, BLM, and getting in their face. And that's how I found out about the struggle sessions. So
that's what we did. Yeah, do this, right?
Yeah, that's scary.
It's terrifying to me, okay, because I lived through that time. I recognize the tactics and I recognize the term. Lots of our young people are being, propagandized and brainwashed. They even don't recognize equity. I like equality. All men are created equal. But when you use term equity, racial equity, that is Marxist term. That means equitable, same outcomes, same wealth redistribution. It is a communism. We don't want that in this country, because if you want to have equitable outcomes, how can you make that happen? You have to take from the people who have it and give to people who have not. That's exactly Marxist theory. That's why when Black Lives Matter founders say, we're trained Marxists, it really scares me. Really, it's like, what do they want? They want to destroy America, destroy our culture, art. Look at the cancel culture everywhere. Even you're a Democrat, you could be canceled. If you're a liberal, you can be canceled. What do they want? What is their agenda? It's to destroy our basic civil, social, legal systems, fabrics of our civil society, to accomplish Marxism, socialism, and communism. But instead, we all were being enslaved. So what you said is correct. The typical tactic of communist Marxists, they want to install hate into your brain. So now, after January 6th, every day you hear about how many people arrested, lose their jobs, even musicians can be canceled, no business for you. And because they want you to see those people as a target of their hatred, even though they're your fellow citizens who just voted for different president. That's okay. We have a constitutional republic. You have a voting rights. Lots of people in other countries never have that voting rights. We should appreciate that. Right. But to target people who voted differently than you and calling them all those bad names and arrest them and see them as domestic terrorists, as extremists, why so many people support that obsession of Trump hate? Actually, obsession for now equity. That's a Marxist term. If we really have full-blown Marxism in this country, 99% of people will be enslaved, will be equally poor. Not like you say the equitable outcome. No, you'll be equally poor like we were under Mao and starving to death. That's the history lesson people should really be educated about.
I found this research study that suggested the younger demographic of Americans, specifically Generation Z, find Marxism and socialism more favorable than older demographics. So that makes me think that there's some type of indoctrination happening in school. Would you agree with that? Or why do you think that it's so appealing to the younger folks?
They don't teach real history. I have been going to schools, middle school, from 6th grader all the way to colleges, to educate people, our youth, as an eyewitness of communism, of Mao's Cultural Revolution. And whenever I tell my stories and show my old pictures from China as a young pioneer, Red Guard, and tell them about struggle sessions and class struggles, they were just totally shocked. And even teachers tell me they teach social studies and history. They don't know some of the details. Think about if our teachers were not well educated on history and the horrors of communism and socialism, then how are they going to teach our children? I had one girl follow me out of a high school classroom one time to say she was shy. She did not want to stand up, ask me questions, but she was follow me. She said, what do you mean under Cultural Revolution, you could not really have art anymore because some art are deemed incorrect? No comedy can go against Communist Party's narrative and can insult any political leaders, any party members. Imagine that happened to the United States. I see that in the shadow of the cancel culture. You cannot wear this clothes, right? It would be cultural appropriation. You cannot name this product this name because that's cultural. It's like they're trying to cancel you. They're trying to shut down free speech and freedom of mind and thought. See, as human beings, if you're free, you need to have a free thought, thinking for yourself instead of buy into propaganda of the left media, mainstream media, and your politicians. But if you cannot say what you think, what kind of country are we going to live in? The whole point of free speech in Constitution is to protect, to say something people don't like to hear. Not like we agree, that's fine, but it's precisely for people to voice their opinions that are not in your liking. We can exchange ideas, and that's how you come up with a smart solution to solve our society problems. But instead, our kids taught believe in government, believe in media, and silence the dissidents. I'm telling you, guys, you're young, but I have seen very similar stuff happen before. That's why I'm very loud to oppose this cancel culture and this critical race theory and the Black Lives Matter founders who are calling themselves Marxists. It's very dangerous.
I've had my suspicions about cancel culture and political correctness because when people use those, I find that they're trying to achieve some type of utopia reality where everything is perfect and everything is happy and nice. And what I try to tell my audience is that a utopia will never exist. There will never be a perfect world. So when I see someone utilizing cancel culture or political correctness to try to make things good, I always sense a red flag because I know that it's a slippery slope from there where you'll have a small minority or even the government dictating what is and isn't harmful. And we even see it in comedy. You can't even enjoy a joke without someone's, oh, that's hurtful. You can't joke about that. That's the beauty of comedy.
I welcome people tell me Chinese jokes because I laugh at them. I'm not offended because, to have fun in life, really enjoying life. Fundamentally, people are nice in this country. When they want to tease me, I tease them back. They tell me Chinese jokes, I tell them white jokes or whatever other jokes. So all these tactics, it's very divisive. It makes life just like a suffering place. When you talk about utopian society our young people bought into, it's not utopian at all. Mao promised us as a communist leader, we're going to give you peasants land. We're going to give you intellectuals a free speech. We're going to build a new China. Guess what? The peasants never got the land. The intellectuals were pushed to commit suicide, live on Chinese government food rationing coupons based on your party positions. Besides, 100 million people died under communism. There are estimated 20 to 40 million people in China just died of mass starvation. Utopia never came. I had to eat red meat. Like Venezuela people have to eat cat's meat today. They run out of cats. But the promise never came. There's no single communist country, socialist country that really give people prosperity and good life. But the communist Marxists want you to believe their empty promise, free college, free health care, free this or free that. But that's not true. We had to pay for school, we had to pay for health care, and we had to pay for lots of things. The only thing we did not pay is community housing. 8 families share one bathroom, one water faucet, and dark light bulbs. That's community housing you want to live in? You look at Cuba, you look at Venezuela, how quickly lost all their wealth. And the promise never come. I don't want that happen to Americans. When communists took over, they also took over all the press, all the law enforcement, they control military, they control radios and newspapers and schools. So you had no alternative information anymore. Where do you go to get the true information except the old China history? We still had the industry, we had the commerce, but when the communists took over, all land belonged to the state. No more private property because they were bad people. You need to hate them. We're going to take over land from the rich landowner. We're going to distribute to your all peasants. 70% of population at that time were peasants in China. So they believed him. It sounds wonderful, right? It was a broken promise and the never come. So when you say this country, people start to buy into, we're gonna take, we're gonna give to the poor, give to the have-not. You don't want to rely on government because if they provide you everything, they can also take everything away from you and totally, enslave you. You want to be independent. You want to work hard on your own merit to achieve those good life. Say if Americans are independent-minded, this current situation will never happen because people will be relying on themselves. I think the government knows once they put a fear in your mind, once they make you promises. That's what communists said. We don't have to make a United States a communist, socialist country, and by like a war. No, we don't have to fire one shot. You people will be fit. Socialism a little bit every year. Then you will be a communist country someday. That's what the Soviet Union communist leader said. And you say that it's already happening because our people bought into that free stuff.
Socialism, does that always lead to communism?
Some people ask me that question in schools too. And I can always quote something from Lenin. Lenin is one of the, of course, Bolshevik leaders, like communist leaders. He said the goal of socialism is communism. That's what he said. Here's the difference. The communism will take away your properties and change your country, enslave you by force. Chairman Mao said, the political power is coming out of barrel of gun. That's why Communist Party in China control the military. They control the guns, where 1.4 billion Chinese are totally disarmed. You cannot have anything to protect yourself. Maybe your kitchen knives, okay? And socialism is to enslave people by votes. Just like beginning of the Cuba, beginning of Venezuela, and they say, oh, we're gonna promise you this free stuff. You rely on government, we'll give you this, that. You vote for us. So I always tell people, when you vote for socialism, you are voting against yourself. The temporary promise is just temporary. They might never come, or long-term is a total tragic, disastrous outcomes. Our kids don't know that because they don't know history. They hate the Nazis, but they don't tell them Nazis is originally a socialist nationalist party that Hitler belonged to. Then do they know how many people died under Nazi? They know. But how many people died under communism in Cambodia when they actually kill intellectuals who wear glasses? If you wear glasses in your interaction in Cambodia by Pol Pot, he will kill you because he said, you look different. You're not equal. We want everybody to look the same. Equity, right? Those are very superficial, just stupid stuff because we are talking about people are created equal in terms of equal protection under the law and equal opportunities. But they want to talk about equitable outcomes. That's a Marxist term, and we have to totally reject that. Our kids that need to learn probably from their parents, since our primary purpose of public school now is basic introduction camps for the lefty ideology right now.
Let's talk about that because you're organizing a protest against critical race theory this weekend. And you mentioned that you're seeing the shadows of indoctrination of communist China in critical race theory. Can you explain that?
First of all, I reject the false claim by the critical race theory. It's based on this claim or accusation that America is a systemic racist country. And then all white people are born racist. How could the majority of people be condemned as a racist without individual character? Dr. King said, we judge people not based on their race and skin, but their content of their individual character. So I reject those two claims. Yes, there are individual cases, racism exists, and we need to overcome that by talking to each other, hang out with each other, respect each other, have conversations. The United States have achieved a lot. And if America is really that bad, systemic racist country, everybody here was suffering for people of color, you tell me why did millions immigrants wanted to flee their own countries, like me, and come here to seek better life for ourselves? When I came here, I had nothing. I was offered homes, temporary living, and I feel like, oh, they were the most generous, kindest people. And they were white, so what? So how could you condemn people? So I want to organize this rally to stop the critical race theory indoctrination in our schools, because I don't want what happened to me happen to our kids in schools where they were told, you were born white, you were born racist, your parents were born racist, you need to take this homework to home, ask your parents to condemn themselves. My husband's white. I can tell my kids, your dad is racist because he's white. I'm not because I'm Asian. It's like pretend to be facts and data supported by history, but it's not. So I hope people come to our rally 1 o'clock to 2 p.m. at the state capitol in Concord State House, because Biden already talking about offering $1 billion to Department of Education. But you got to teach critical race theory in your schools. We need to stop this. We are trying to pass a budget in New Hampshire right now, and we'll have some language into that budget to say, we don't want our public institutions to use taxpayers' money to train people in our government to be anti-racist. Like Dr. Kendi, read his book, How to Be Anti-Racist. Military, read his book, How to Be Anti-Racist. I did spend time to watch his YouTube videos, to listen to him. But there's no facts data back to his claim. It's all opinion. And it's a Marxist opinion. Same thing with Robin DiAngelo. Look at what she said. No facts, no data. If you look at, for example, even the police killing Black people, right? I'm sure you're aware of that. No data backed it up. Police, white policemen will just go out, like randomly target people if you're Black. There's no data back that. But the real conversation, Gothic, should be why Black people commit a higher proportional percentage of crimes compared with their population percentage. Do they have good families? Do they live in poverty? Do they have good schools? Do they have a school choice in the big blue states, big blue cities? That's number one. The Democrats use Black people to achieve their agenda, but they against school choice. How do our Black brothers and sisters get good education, to actually have skills to advance themselves instead of just blame on the society, blame and on the white, and ask government, give me some money? The real conversation should be, how do we lift them up? By having better education, by teaching them how to run business, by reducing government regulation.
So you mentioned something just then where you were talking about how they were saying, you know, Black people are being targeted in the streets by police officers and they're not providing enough data to support that. It's a little bit frustrating because it makes it seem like facts don't matter. And you mentioned before that when you were growing up in the Cultural Revolution, they didn't want you to think independently. And I've also noticed something with the Stop Asian Hate. I don't know if you've been following that.
Yes, yes.
And I noticed a similar pattern where they were claiming that there's a lot of white supremacists that are attacking Asians. But then again, I look at the data and I'm seeing that Black people are the most violent offenders. Have you noticed that too with the Stop Asian Hate as well?
Yes, if you look at the 2018 Department of Justice data, the crime data talk about the different groups committed crimes on different groups. You are absolutely correct. The number one group to commit violent crimes against Asians are the people of color, especially Blacks. Whenever there's a white guy shooting and the criminal is white, Then everybody is outraged, especially on media. But then when the criminals are people of color, and then there's no outrage, there's no protest. So they also use COVID to use that against Trump, to say Trump said the Chinese virus, why did you say that? The crime is going up, this or that, blame on him. The thing is, the crimes against Asians have been going on for many years. And as a Chinese immigrant, I was not offended by Wuhan virus, Chinese virus, because that's origin. And I don't know why media always want to speak for us, think we're offended. And the thing, so now we're talking about South Africa variant, UK variant. It means like we are using names, right? And how come there's no media pushback? Right. So medias right now, I think they are just propaganda machines for the left. And lots of journalists who have some conscience, I always encourage them, you got to speak up, because in China, the journalists have no press freedom. You got to be politically correct. You got to get a government license to be journalists. They will come after you too, if you slightly differentiate from their talking points. It's already happened to some people in the journalism field. They have to leave. The huge propaganda machine by Chinese Communist Party, they have their propagandas and trolls and infiltrated into Western world very badly in the past decade. Have you heard about Confucius Institute?
Yes, I have.
They were in our schools and colleges to teach how wonderful Chinese culture is. Do they think only teach Chinese culture and language, they make a Communist Party look good? And actually, they were funded by Chinese government. And Trump is the one to say, you got to get rid of that. Senator Rubio had a bill to say, if you take a Chinese government money, you cannot take the US government grant. So that kind of shut down now. But still, they are everywhere in this country, in Australia, in EU, and there are 20 million internet influencers in social media to speak for them, to promote their image in the world. I cannot even go home now because they call me, I'm one of the criminals in China because I'm speaking up against the communism, against the Communist Party dictatorship.
I found an older tweet of yours where you compared this young girl from TikTok. I don't know if you remember it. She said in the video, I'm going to stab you while you're struggling and bleeding out, and I'm going to show you my paper cut and say my cut matters too. And the caption you said was that this girl reminds you of the Red Guards during China's Cultural Revolution. Help me understand, what similarities are you seeing?
See, Red Guards are basically urban youth were used by Mao to achieve his agenda, to do his 10 years Cultural Revolution. I was one of them, but I never did those violent stuff because I was too young. But we were indoctrinated anyway. And they want you to hate, they want you to be violent, and they want you to totally loyal to your government, to him, not to your families, and not to your communities, and not to each other. I want to tell people, I don't want to be enslaved ever again. I can never be silenced again. I lived in China for 24 years, I was silenced. I come to this country that took me 20 years in this country to wake up, to get rid of my garbage of education I got from Chinese government, indoctrination camps. That's 44 years of my life. Now I'm in my 50s. That's why I'm so passionate about what I'm doing. I was not allowed to vote. I was not allowed to think. I was not allowed to speak. And now I come to this country, I see all the young people are bought into the same crap that we were faded to. It's tragic, it's sad, but I just don't know how to wake up people. I need to talk more people like you, go to national TVs and get an interview nationally to tell people, let's rethink America, where are you going? I understand when something tragic happened to the community, to your family member, your emotion run high, people can get angry. But fundamentally, to have productive solutions and conversations, we need to come down and look at facts and data. Otherwise, it will be just manipulated by the people who truly wanted to enslave all of us, like communist Marxists. So I hope people will wake up. And some teachers are afraid to lose their jobs, so they have to teach what they're told to teach. So as parents, we need to push back to say, hey, superintendent, hey, school board members, what are you teaching my kids? I'm putting them out. I'm putting my money out of private colleges or public universities. I'm putting my money out to homeschool my kids. I demand school choice because you are teaching them garbage. Back to the people of color. If you are trapped in inner city, poor performing schools, you have no school choice. What do? You have lots of time in your hands and you live on welfare. You have no father figure and no role models. What do you do with your time? Other people can feel that crap and to influence you, to get you to go out, to become stray gangs, to go riots, go looting. There's no moral left anymore. Looting is justified. That's what the Marxists tell you. Maybe later will be killing people is justified. How dangerous is that? Yeah. So I think you and I, because you are very articulate, very persuasive, I also want to tell people, even on this conservative side, we should not demonize anybody. We don't demonize Democrats, and we don't want Democrats demonize Republicans. And there are lots of people in the middle, independents. We need to just have a calm conversation to say, we just want to live in peace. We want to promote love, tolerance, acceptance, unity. That's what our rally this Saturday is about. We will promote unity and love, not hate. Critical race theory is about division, hate, and envy. If we give up, I don't know about you, I have no place to go. America is my home. Yeah. It's my refuge. Yeah.
Everyone's entitled to be emotional, but if you constantly run on that, it's going to cloud your best judgment. And I think that's where we are right now. It's just we're running on fumes.
Yeah, here's a good thing, Vanessa. Tell people being free human being, free people, means you are able to use your brain to think. If we just act our primary emotions, what is the difference between humans and animals? We need reason. We need a rational thinking. We need to look at data and facts to justify our talking points and rhetorics, especially our young people. They need rational conversations sometimes to say, hey, what you believe is not true. Let's look at this. And also, do you want to be self-employed entrepreneur someday? We still have this free market system in the United States. You can start your own business instead of just blow money and live on paycheck to paycheck. But how do you put that responsibility on your shoulder to say, I'm poor now, but I'm going to start my business. I'm going to save, I'm going to work on my ideas. And don't be afraid of failure. I failed in my self-employed business for 8 years before I become profitable. Remember, I could not speak English. I came here with nothing. I'm living American dream. I have 2 or 3 home businesses. What stopped you who were born in this country, who did not have even accent to speak your English, to achieve your dream? So we need to have those conversations. We need to help each other out, and demonize one group to another is just the identity politics that Marxists love for you to have. We don't want to fall into trap of identity politics. We need to be compassionate and inclusive for, all Americans. Doesn't matter what color skin you have, what race, where you come from. Here is our home. That's our biggest common ground. This is our country. This is our home. You want your children to have a good future. You want you to have a good future. So keep doing what you're doing. I saw some of your video. I'm just really impressed with how you actually trying to communicate and with your readers, and especially we need the minority groups to wake up. We don't want them to be used as lefty, radical left to achieve their Marxist agenda, because that agenda is not good for anybody except maybe top 1% of the ruling class. I'm really trying my best to get my messages out. So if you have a radio host in your state, introduce me to them. More YouTubers like you, different groups. And I also want to speak to students, either online or in person, go to school classroom to show my pictures from Mao's Cultural Revolution. So I'm trying to do my best. for my new beloved country, because as I said, America is home and there's no place to go after America.
Lily, thank you so much for having a conversation with me. This has been really insightful. Everyone else, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this, give it a like, give it a thumbs up. Wait, that's the same thing. Give it a like and hit subscribe, and click on the links in the description to go check out Lily Tang Williams' Facebook and all the socials and whatnot. And please let me know if you have any other rallies that you're doing, because I would love to be a part of them.
I'd love to meet you someday, and you can come here interview me in person. I will take you to this Chinese restaurant in Chinatown in Boston.
Ooh.
And I saw people driving up from Rhode Island. This is only 1 hour away to eat here. I thought, oh, that's cool. I didn't know Rhode Island is so close.
Okay.
So we could meet there to have some good Chinese food, you know?
That sounds good. Sounds like a
Yeah,
plan.
all right. Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.
If you want to help spread Lily's message, I'll have her contact info listed below and a direct link to this interview for you to re-upload on other platforms. Thanks for watching.
This, and I think a lot of people, and this is sort of how leftists, like more mainstream leftists, like Democrats, who maybe not be Marxists per se, but they fostered this culture, right? They fostered this these sorts of people because they've been used for idiots for them. I think now we're seeing a point with some of the things that are breaking out around the country. You're seeing that the people that are like they're running the asylum now in a sense, but that's partially because, you know, Democrats and mainstream leftists have fostered this. They've coddled these guys. They've protected these types. Said that they weren't what they were. Oh, you're just being over dramatic. Why would you say that? Like, you think that it's just some coincidence that groups like or people that are proudly, which is another kind of less organized group. You know, when you look at what you guys consider Antifa. It's not a secret as to why they latched their wagon onto like Black Lives Matter. Because they both with the black and red.